What's up guys, it's Meg and welcome back to Meg After Dark. Today we're taking a look dead ahead to talk about some predictions for next week's mid-season finale of season 7 of The Walking Dead. Today we're talking about Daryl and who is helping him escape. Now, when I watched the episode, I immediately thought, of course it's Jesus helping him escape. Now let me tell you why. There are a couple options here though as to who is helping him that I later realized after watching it again, like, okay, it might not be Jesus. There were some of you who commented in my reaction video going, I don't think it's Jesus. I think maybe it was Dwight or Sherry, or there were a couple comments like that. And I was like, what? What do you mean it's not Jesus? Because I had it in my head. I was like, no, it is. But I'm wondering if Dwight might be, you know, coming over to the good side a little bit earlier than planned. So here's my two theories, and I wanted to run it by you. I'm doing a separate video for this instead of the predictions in my normal just all predictions video, because I thought that this was something that was really interesting to me, because we've kind of been wondering, well, what is going to happen to Daryl? Obviously we don't know. Daryl's a wild card here. He's not in the comics at all, and I can't help but thinking this is almost like Beth and the hospital, you know, where she's away from the group. She's with these bad guys in the hospital. She's having to work for, you know, work for what you earn what you take or whatever. It's the same kind of system almost that Negan has. And it didn't work out so well for Beth, unfortunately. You know, she tried to escape once and it didn't work. And then she eventually gets herself killed. And I can't help but relating that to Daryl in some way, because this is almost kind of, I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of related a little bit, where we have Daryl in this place with these bad guys, with the saviors, and we don't know what's going to happen to him. It kind of seems like Dwight is taking on, you know, he's taking Daryl's crossbow, he's got his bike, he's kind of turning into a Daryl himself, but he's also turning into really the Dwight from the comics. Dwight in the comics had the crossbow, you know? And so I can't help but worry a little bit that maybe Daryl won't make it out of the sanctuary alive. And we saw him try to escape once. It was a trap, unfortunately. It was a trap test, and he failed it. And Negan has been working very hard along with Dwight to kind of break Daryl in a way and make him eventually become one of Negan's soldiers. Now, here's my theories so that this video doesn't take too long, although we know that my videos always do. First theory was Jesus, when he jumped off the truck and left Carl inside, he had every intention of following the truck to be able to just observe where the sanctuary was, how it's run, you know, maybe what barriers there are to get in, and report back to Sasha, you know, so she can kind of make a plan on how to get in and potentially kill Negan. And all he was supposed to do was observe. Well, Carl threw a big wrench in those plans. When he discovered Carl in the back of the truck, you know, he was like, okay, well, come with me, Carl. And then Carl doesn't. So I think Jesus's original plan of just observing has kind of changed slightly, because I feel like he is going to feel some sort of responsibility in making sure that Carl's okay. And in that moment where Negan is taking Carl back to the sanctuary, Daryl's right there, and Jesus is on top of the truck, and he's laying there, and you see him kind of peek over the side. And in my mind, he saw Daryl, you know, he saw Daryl. And him and Daryl have had interactions before, you know. Rick and Daryl had the truck full of food that Jesus stole. You know, there's a connection there. Even just a little connection. There is still a connection there where I feel like he might feel the need to help Daryl out, or want to, you know. Jesus is a good guy. I feel like he would not want Daryl to stay there if he didn't have to. So in my mind, when he overheard Negan say, I'm taking Carl back to the sanctuary, and then he said, Dwight, Daryl needs to go have a timeout in his cell again. And Daryl looks up, and I'm sure that he saw Jesus there, because he looked up on the top of the truck, and that's right where Jesus was. And I really think that he saw Jesus there. Like, I'm sure of it. And so then when the truck drives away, Jesus is not there anymore. And a lot of you said, well, you know, he could have just jumped in the back and, you know, he's going back to Alexandria. I don't believe so. I think that he got off of the truck and he knew. This is my reasoning, because someone, and I can't remember who you were, but you said, well, it would have taken a lot of observation for him to be able to track down where the key to the cell was, because the note, you know, we then see Daryl in his cell. Daryl hears somebody walk up, and I think he already has it in his mind that Jesus is there somewhere. And he sees the note come under the door, and it says, go now. And on the back, I think, was a key, right? I couldn't see it very well, but I'm pretty sure it was a key. And it's kind of left at that, and we know in the next episode, in the mid-season finale, Daryl is going to try to escape. Whether or not he's successful is yet to be seen. But Jesus, I want to make sure I'm explaining this right, Jesus heard Negan say, take Daryl back to his cell. So we know that Jesus is kind of like this ninja spy type guy, where he's very good at like escaping and fighting, and I kind of feel like really good at observing and kind of going about unseen. I mean, how was he up on the truck that whole time, like, and with nobody seeing him and probably moving around? I think that when we didn't see him on the truck any longer, that he had hopped down and was following Dwight back in. He potentially saw where Dwight put Daryl, and if he was indeed able to watch him, then he would have also seen where the key was. I mean, if he's able to see where let's just say let's say he was stealthy enough to be able to see where he to follow Daryl in, follow Dwight in, I keep getting their names mixed up, and see where he was, see where the key was, and, you know, sneak in and get the key after Dwight walked away or something. I think it's a very real possibility. We saw back when Rick and Daryl locked Jesus up, handcuffed him, locked him up in their, you know, jail cell in Alexandria, and he completely escaped. We don't know how he did it, but he like ninja'd himself out of that, escaped, and was standing in Rick and Michonne's bedroom. Like, he's very capable of moving around unseen. I really feel like that's how they're making his character. So I really believe that he's very capable of stealing the key and helping Daryl escape and telling him, like, go now. But there's this flip side here. Here's my other playing devil's advocate here. Let's say Jesus didn't do that. I just feel like, one more thing about the Jesus thing is, I feel like they would not have shown that he was no longer on the roof of the van or of the truck if he was going back to Alexandria. I feel like if he was going back to Alexandria with Carl and Negan, he would have just stayed up there. I don't think that he would have, you know what I mean? So to have them purposely show that he wasn't up there any longer is what really kind of made me think that that's what he was doing. And then we see immediately the next scene is Daryl getting the note under the door. So that's kind of me putting those two things together. Let me know what you guys think about that theory in the comments, if you believe it or if you think it is actually Dwight or Sherry. So I don't think it was Sherry, but there's this conversation this entire time, you know, Dwight saw was it Mark? Saw Mark get the iron in this episode. And he also saw Negan kissing his ex-wife, Sherry. And he still has very real feelings for her. Also very real resentment towards Negan for everything that he has done to Dwight and Sherry. And there's kind of this turning point where, spoiler alert for the comics, if you haven't read it, Dwight ends up turning into a good guy. Okay, so you know that he's heading that way somewhere. Oh, I'm getting a little red talking about this. We know that he's heading that way at some point, and I'm wondering if it's going to be sooner rather than later. We see in the stairwell when Dwight and Sherry are having this conversation, they're having a cigarette, and there was a moment where he says everything, he's like, you know, whatever you gotta do to help you sleep at night, you know. She's like, do you sleep at night? And he says, no, I don't, I watch TV all night. And he says something, I have to watch it again to get an exact what exactly he said, but he says something like, everything that we've done to get where we are has been on the backs of someone else, you know, and people have suffered for where they're at, and everything they've done to survive has been at the cost of something else. And I think that was kind of the general gist of what he was saying. And gosh, I wish I should have looked this up, but she says something like, that's right, we're not doing anything. You know, something like that, like you didn't do anything, or that's right, we're not doing anything. Basically, and I can't think of the right phrase, so please feel free to let me know what it was. I should have looked it up before I said that, but basically it was kind of like, we're not doing anything to get out of our situation. We're not doing anything to help anyone else. We're just kind of going along with this, and that's kind of what I got from it, and I don't know if I'm explaining that proper. I feel like I'm not, like, I have it in my head what I want to say, but I can't find the right words for it. But I feel like her saying that as she's like, that's right. Oh, I know what it was. She said, I should go before you should go before people see us. And he's like, we're not doing anything. And she's like, you're right, we're not doing anything. And that could be taken two ways. One, it could be like, you're right, you and I aren't doing anything here, like we're not together. But it can also be taken as, you're right, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything against Negan. We're not doing anything to make our situation better. We're not doing anything to get out of this, to fix this, you know? And that's kind of the underlying message that I got from that. And I feel like that phrase and her saying that as she walked away could have inspired him to actually take a step towards doing something right. And maybe he decided, you know, Negan's gone. He's taken Carl back to Alexandria. Dwight's there. Maybe he, you know, he's kind of right up there with Negan. He could have easily told some of the other guys to like go do something else, sent them off away, and could have stuck the key under the door and said, go now, like this is your chance. You've got a clear path, go now. Here's the key, go now. So that's a very real possibility. Dwight could very well have a change of heart at this point and take his first step to defying Negan. And I really think that's a very real possibility. And, you know, in watching the show the first time, I thought, yeah, for sure it was Jesus helping him. What do you mean it's not Jesus? But then, you know, reading into it a little bit more, that conversation with him and Sherry and witnessing Mark get the iron and seeing just how cruel Negan is, you know, and I think that, you know, Dwight has always hated Negan. He may be like right up there helping Negan, doing what Negan asks, but he is not for Negan. He doesn't want Negan to be there, to be the leader. He's just going along with it because that's what he has to do right now, you know? And I feel like this might be the first step towards him switching sides, and I kind of hope it is, you know? Okay, that's my theory. Those are my two theories, predictions for two possible ways that Daryl could escape. But will he actually escape, or will he get caught? Will he get killed? Can there be two crossbow wielding, motorcycle riding characters in The Walking Dead? I mean, I don't know. How far does Daryl's character go here? I to be honest with you, I think there's only going to be one death in the mid-season finale, and I'm not going to say who it is right now, but I think, you know, comic readers know for sure that this is going to happen. I'm 100% this is going to happen, but I feel like that is probably going to be how the episode ends. And I don't think that we're going to see any other deaths, because I think that the shock value of the death that I'm speaking of would be underwhelming if, I don't know if that's the right word, if they also killed off Daryl in the episode. Do you know what I mean? Or like if they killed somebody else, it wouldn't have as big of a shock, you know, it wouldn't mean as much to kill the person I'm thinking of. So that's my thought. I'm gonna do a separate predictions video for that, which I'm sure you guys know what I'm thinking. And I will see you guys next time. Let me know what you think about this. Did you like this kind of separate predictions video? If you want to see more like this, let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Be sure to like this video if you like it. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it with your friends and subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you next time. Bye.